Influence on elections. Jason Chaffetz weighs in on that, but first, a Fox News alert: the FBI and the Capitol Police now investigating an apparent death threat against Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky. Fox News exclusively obtaining this photo of the letter threatening violence against Paul. Chief Washington correspondent Mike Emanuel live in D.C. with the latest. Just doesn't stop for the Kentucky senator, Mike.
No, you're right, John. Good afternoon to you. U.S. Capitol Police now saying an initial test has determined the substance is not dangerous, but it has been taken to an FBI lab for further evaluation. The letter filled with white powder contained the threat, quote, "I'll finish what your neighbor started, you expletive." The image showing a rifle pointed at Senator Paul's head in a neck brace, arm cast, and a crutch. The FBI in Louisville saying we are not commenting further than we are working with the Warren County Sheriff's Office and the Capitol Police by providing forensic and technical assistance. Senator Paul issued a statement saying, quote, "I take these threats immensely seriously. I've been targeted multiple times now. It is reprehensible that Twitter allows C-list celebrities to advocate for violence against me and my family. This must stop." That is a reference to 1980s pop star Richard Marx tweeting on Sunday, "I'll say it again. If I ever meet Rand Paul's neighbor, I'm going to hug him and buy him as many drinks as he can consume." Marx is now calling that a wisecrack. John?
Wisecrack, yes. Other people are seeing it as maybe an incitement to violence. Mike Emanuel for us. Mike, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Every day I say it, Twitter has become such a cesspool of hatred and vitriol. It's just, I know,
it's heartbreaking because it used to be a way to interact with people you don't know around the world, and now it's become a place where you can go to receive death threats and report them to the Twitter's board, and they never do anything about it. So, it's
awful. People used to blame President Trump for it. He's long gone from Twitter.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is very, very true. And a lot of his followers that left right after he lost the election have still not come back, as a lot of folks predicted would happen.
Yeah. People who condemned his behavior continue to engage in behavior that's contemptible themselves.
So now for something completely different, Florida's governor, that's Ron DeSantis, is signing this bill that he says is going to protect Americans from Silicon Valley's, quote, "power grab on speech, thought, and content." His critics say that this bill just gives state government too much power, but DeSantis says what it does is give Floridians power to fight back. The law allows users to sue companies, and it bans social media sites from deplatforming political candidates for office. Let's bring in former Utah Congressman Jason Chaffetz. He is a Fox News contributor, also host of the podcast Jason in the House, so the perfect guest on this story, Jason. Let's take a look real quick. I want to get through this quickly of what the law actually does. We'll pull this up so that you and our viewers can see it. This is the new Florida law he's proposed. Residents can sue tech companies up to $100 grand if they believe they've been wrongly censored. Companies, in turn, must detail how they make decisions about banning people or censoring them. And then political candidates cannot be deplatformed, at least while they're running for office. How does all that sound to you? Is this going to cut the mustard and fix some of the inequities that are built into these social media platforms?
Well, it certainly makes it better. And I think Governor DeSantis is showing why he's probably one of the top contenders in 2024, along with, Senator Tim Scott and Kristi Noem. But I do think it's going to help political candidates who are often censored and pushed out. I do think that these high-tech companies, that the legal sophistication in going after them has not elevated to the level in which it could and should, because I do think they engage in deceptive trade practices. I think the way they treat minors is another vulnerability for them. I think the right to be forgotten, which they employ in Europe and other places, is something that continued to be pursued. But I think Governor DeSantis is on the right track. Allow them to be able to go to court. And I think one of the more damaging things to the social media companies is if they have to peel back the veil and show why and how they made these decisions, because I think they're terribly vulnerable to the political bias and just outright campaigning in favor of Democrats.
So it's interesting. So when I said in my off the top, does this bill help level some of the inequities that are built into the system on these platforms? That's exactly what I meant. Do you think that this bill will go at least some of the way towards forcing these companies to detail why they're banning so many conservatives versus liberals? You think it'll help there?
Yes.
Okay.
I really do think there'll be some legal sophistication that does go after this. And I want to hear the Democrats argue against this. I think if actually pressed, a lot of liberals and Democrats would have to agree that this would be the right thing to do. And in a political sense, as you asked about 2022, I think it'd be fascinating to see how the Democrats, who by and large, probably 90+% of the donations from these high-tech firms go to these Democrats. I think it'll put them in a terrible political spot to try to justify or fight against what Governor DeSantis is doing. And I think a lot of other states will follow suit.
Here, take a listen to Governor DeSantis last night in his own words. We'll get you to react on the other side.
Big tech has amassed a massive amount of power. They are monopolies. They're monopolies that are much more powerful than the monopolies of the early 20th century. And they're using their power to enforce orthodoxy and to suppress speech and candidates that they disagree with.
He's not alone in that sentiment.
Yeah, the suppression is very real. I felt it personally. I know others have. I think they are engaging, in general, the social media companies in deceptive trade practices. I think there are FTC issues that people should go through. If you say you're going to follow somebody, guess what? You don't necessarily get to follow that person. And they put these little hearts and these other things to say, oh, you like this or you follow that. But they're deceptive because you don't get to actually follow that person. They have these algorithms and this secrecy that they're going to think eventually break through and try to display that it goes totally against conservatives.
Right, Jason, we got to leave it there, but we'll bring you back again soon to talk about all the little hearts. We appreciate you taking the time for us.
Thank you.
John.
Good to see Jason. Jillian, with just 6 weeks left to go until the opening ceremonies, are the Summer Olympics in Japan in jeopardy of being canceled over COVID? A live report on that coming up.
And now, 1 year to the day after George Floyd's death in Minneapolis, a lot of Americans are asking whether the push to defund the police has made America less safe from violent crime. We've got our all-star panel, Leo Terrell, and Detroit Police Chief James Craig, coming up next.
So many innocent people are being affected by this. We want to protect and serve as officers, and we just can't do that when nobody has respect for the authority and nobody is helping us out.